Welcome to Passion and Profit. If you're a small business owner or solo entrepreneur, this episode is for you. It would not only help you achieve your business goals, but it will also help you enjoy the process. Let's get started.
And eventually they don't want to lose the aspect of handmade. At the same time, they're nervous about, okay, if I don't do it myself, how do I ensure quality? Right? So how do I ensure that this is still as ethical as I want this brand to be? Right? How do I ensure the raw materials are great? So how do I ensure that everything that I have been doing till now, it stays or sort of improves from where it is right now?
Passion and Profit with your host, Delmith Morales, the podcast for makers and manufacturers. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Delmith. This podcast, that is created by Inventora, the all-in-one inventory system for makers and manufacturers. Today, we're going to be talking about outsourcing your handmade business with Konark Ogra. He runs Rural Handmade and is in the works of building the Alibaba for Handmade and Sustainable Products. So, Konark, welcome to the episode. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We're so happy to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks a lot, Telma. It's very kind of you guys. I'm super excited, happy to share all the wisdom, the knowledge we have gathered over the past few years doing the business.
I know that this is a topic that a lot of handmade businesses are like, we all have that in our minds, like outsourcing, creating our products. Most of our audience are hand makers and they do their products by themselves. But after a moment that you started to being successful and your business is growing, you start thinking about ways to outsource and create new products or new collections. And I just wanted to, for you to let us know what you guys do with Rural Handmade and how did you came up with this idea?
Lovely. Yeah. So I'll give you a quick sort of a background about the business. So we effectively, as a team wanted to, create a more equitable impact across just the different parts of the world, sort of working with different set of countries. So we looked at different skill sets that people have. And this industry excited us the most in terms of how much human capital is in these communities, in these countries. It is sort of decentralized, but we believe that that's where the true power is. And as we move into Web3 and the advancements of AI and machine learning and the internet penetration, accessibility to low-cost ICT devices, we think this is a time where the world is sort of needs to be connected. And the sector, I'll just give you a few numbers. It's the second largest employer in the world. People don't recognize this. Just after agriculture, it's highly, highly fragmented, which means, there's no big supplier. This is done by communities. We classify them as nano manufacturers. If you, depending on where you live, you would have, a bunch of these tiny micro nano businesses making these things. So in summary, lack of technology, massive, total addressable market, and the rising demand among businesses and consumers is the reason why we believe, this business is here to stay. And that's the reason we started Rural Handmade.
I love that. I think that's like a good reason to start something like that, just to help nano manufacturers, like you said. And I, as a hand maker, we are always thinking of ways of helping other people that hand make products. And I think this is the perfect way to do it. And it's easier if you have someone that can connect you with that people, right? So how do you, what's the process of creating this? How can people start creating new products with you guys?
Right. So I'll answer that one and also give you a small prequel. So, one of the problems that we realize, of sort of many years doing this business is that often, small brands, that typically are brands that sell these handmade things. They make these things, or they source it, or they sort of somehow get it from made outside. And all the time, every single small brand that we worked with has this unique problem that they're competing with the likes of these big box players, right? And we have truly believed in the concept of how can we create this cross-border, alternate, sustainable supply chain that we can give to a small brand so that he can compete against a big company, right? So that's the sort of the prequel of this thing that we're doing now. As far as outsourcing is concerned, we rather would like to use the term cross continental or cross country collaboration. And the reason I say that is, sustainability just as a concept has, for us, it has three important ingredients to it. One is obviously the environment, which is what all of us that live in a first world country talk about quite often. But the second thing, obviously, is going to be about how do you bring social equality at the same time you're also kind of maintaining a balance between the nature and consumption, right? And the final thing is that if there is an economic impetus in doing this cross-border relationship. Now, if you can do all these three things, we believe you are truly talking about sustainability. Now, let me give you a use case. So you're a small business. You obviously have now, there's a lot of regulations, legislation, laws, and systems that we have in Europe and in the US where you have to declare how are you changing the world, in whatever small capacity you can. And what we realize that if you can somehow share your this handmade supply chain with communities that perhaps have an amazing skill, not necessarily have the right market access, you are changing the world in sort of the highest per capita basis than any of the big companies are. And that is what we do. So if I give you an example, let's say you are a small business that sort of, is fundamentally giving home goods, and your core focus is towards preserving forest land. And that is where we would then connect you to communities, for example, in the jungles of Amazon in Brazil, where you could perhaps understand what are their sort of handcrafted capabilities and try and use your local domain expertise and share this with these communities to sort of collectively create products that consumers want. And then you do this story that I just narrated to you, you do this at scale. And then you do this in Africa, you do this with communities in Southeast Asia. And by the way, you can do this also within your own geographic region. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cross-border use case, right? But if you think about the impact you're creating, you're sharing knowledge, you're creating equitable opportunities, and like I mentioned, about how do you define sustainability, right? And so if you sort of summarize this, and I would love for the listeners to go back and do this 5-minute recap, because I didn't mention a lot of things in this, you would get a brilliant sort of understanding of how you as a small business can change the world that we all sort of want to be a part of.
Yes, I love that. For me, I am also a small business owner, and I work with artisans from Guatemala. And I know how rewardful that feels. Like it's like a win-win, right? When you're helping others, like you're helping like sustain something that your brand believes about, or a value that your brands have, but also it's something that is going to benefit you because you're going to have more products, you're going to have more things to offer. So I think this is a perfect way to start doing that, like just connecting. And like you said, you don't have to go to another different country. You can do it in the same country or community that you have very near. So, but I know that a lot of people, because like you said, we are small businesses and we are like, whoa, I'm so small that I'm not going to make a difference. and we are competing with huge companies, and there's a lot of them on the market, and it's so hard for us to keep up sometimes. But this part is perfect, and I would love to for the people to know, like, how's the process of creating a new product with this type of communities or people. Is it hard?
Right. Well, it's obviously, there are challenges. So let me just give you sort of the solution of what we offer as a business, which can perhaps help your listeners to get a sense of how we add value, right? So the biggest problem right now that we have is obviously these brands are brilliant. They, like you mentioned, they are doing very well, but they're caught up. They're caught up with consumers' returns. They're caught up with just the volumes. They can't manage it, and eventually they don't want to lose the aspect of handmade. At the same time, they're nervous about, okay, if I don't do it myself, how do I ensure quality? Right? So how do I ensure that this is still as ethical as I want this brand to be? Right? How do I ensure the raw materials are great? So how do I ensure that everything that I have been doing till now, it stays or sort of improves from where it is right now? And so Rural Handmade really is solving these problems as we sort of evolve as a business. So we have more than 20,000 communities from across different parts of the world. Some of the biggest regions we work in is Brazil, Argentina. You come to Europe, we have a really big sort of access in Europe. We are headquartered in London. We've got a massive footprint in Southeast Asia as well. So India, Indonesia, Nepal, Bangladesh. Now, the first thing you have to realize is to really understand what are you trying to do in this cross-border collaboration, right? So you understand the strengths of your business, and then you align your strengths to what are you looking at. So for example, if you are a fashion brand, and for you, the most important thing is to look at alternate fabric, right? So then for a fact that, countries like China, Korea, Taiwan, Japan, you come to Europe and Italy, for example, they are very, very good as compared for sustainable alternate cotton, alternate jute fabric. So you really have to do your primary research. The second thing you have to keep in mind is what are you looking for in the partnership? What are you looking for? Basically, testing and creating a small batch. Or are you in this for the longer run? The reason I say that is a lot of these nano manufacturers are family-run businesses, right? And they love for you to collaborate, to visit them, talk to them, understand the different nuances of working in a different region, right? So I would say if you are thinking of outsourcing, are you thinking of sort of country, cross-continent collaboration, start doing your research. We're happy to, if you want to reach out to us, we often give free consulting services to kind of give you a sort of a head start and share our wisdom with individual businesses. And once you do that, you can always use, services that we offer. We can always use, the power of internet to sort of, make your own sort of decisions. The one thing I'll tell you in summary, which is also very important, often, if you do not use the expertise of businesses like ours, you will run into a black hole, in a sense that your first experience might not be the best experience. And this is just purely to do with the fact that, cross-border B2B collaboration is very, very new, right? And there are at least a zillion moving components. We're talking about shipping, talking about quality control, we're talking about legal issues, we're talking about, settlement of money, we're talking about, so there are hundreds of things that you probably don't know right now. So always a good thing to take an advice and loop into a company like ours that sort of gives you this entire design to delivery service so that you are at peace with your products, and then that your focus has to be towards brand building. Your focus has to be, okay, how do I acquire more customers? So that's basically sort of the process that we have in a nutshell.
Now that you mentioned the legal process, I think this is something that a lot of people question about, or sometimes it's like, I'm not sure if I can do this because of the legal process, or I don't know what documents or paperwork should I have. Is there something that you said you really need this, or is it different with everyone?
Right. So I think obviously the thing is, if you're in the US, for example, there are two parts of it. There's one part which is the manufacturers making the goods overseas, and then he will ship this to you. And usually, the way this works is they ship it to their country's port. And from the port, it is the freight forwarders whose responsibility is to sort of do all the custom clearance, make sure the products are on the on the boat or on the ship on time, and then it sails through different seas depending on where you're bringing it from. And then once it comes to your home country, there has to be an importer on record, which usually is obviously the business that is importing. Now, what we have seen is that a lot of these American or sort of North American businesses have no idea because they've never imported. The beauty is that a lot of the the custom clearance, the import, is extremely streamlined in North America. So think of it as this absolutely brilliant streamlined services that you as a US or a North American taxpayers get without realizing it. It is seamless. It is absolutely brilliant. It's clean. It's fast. And there are hundreds of businesses that actually help you sort of, take these small baby steps. Now, the advantage of doing this, which is something which is very important, and I'm a believer of, how does the money really dictate this? You can easily save closer to 70% if you do it yourself, as compared to you perhaps, sort of entangling with a local wholesaler or a local importer. So effectively, this process is a process which will make your business lean. That means your profitability will increase, and you will become a significantly large brand by tapping into this sort of service.
Yeah, I love this. I know that it's probably, if you say it's so easy, like it's very easy to do and connect. But now that I think about it, like the process I did, because I did it by myself, like started to work with these small communities and looking and doing my research by myself. But like you said, you cannot do all of the things, and you're going to be stepping in a black hole at some point. And it's sad because it's hard and you want to do it, right? But there are a lot of factors that if you can rely on someone that knows that, it's going to release a lot of pressure. And now that you have that, is it like, what factors are taken into consideration when for pricing these types of service? Is there something that you guys do, like you can help people, or is it something that I would say, hey, I can just pay this amount of money, and what can you offer for this, or how does that work?
Right. So yeah. So obviously, this is a cross-border transaction. So I'll tell you about sort of a minimum invoice value that we think usually these nano manufacturers are comfortable with. But typically, between I would say $2,000 to about $50,000. It depends on your appetite. That's sort of the range of the money we're talking about. In terms of what Rural Handmade does, right? We offer at least 25, 30 different services. We are a completely integrated technology business, and so if you're a business that comes and tells us, hey, I don't have designers, I have concepts, right? So can you design this for us? So we will help you design the entire thing from scratch. The second phase would be, sampling, which is obviously the most important thing. How would you know what you're actually making is going to be successful and it's going to look nice? So we do exactly what a big company does. You look at any big company, they have this really fast turnaround time of samples. They manufacture, ship, approve, send it back to the factory, and retrade. So we offer the same service. You tell us what you need, we make the recipe, we get the product, we ship it to you, you're happy, we go for the production. If you're not happy, we go to iteration number 1. If you're not happy again, iteration number 2. So of course, like with most product development, it does take time, But the thing is obviously because you are an expert in your domain, so you know exactly how this to be done. We just follow the process, right? And we usually think, often we have never seen more than 3 iterations in most products, as complicated as it can be. So the process is important. Then you look at production. We have to be sort of very cognizant of the fact that the products are made the right way. And when I say the right way, obviously the most ethical manner, the standards of these other factories are up to the mark, at least if nothing else. It has to be sort of international standards that need to be compliant. They need to follow the local legislations. They need to follow the local laws in terms of the wages also that they pay. And then you look at control, quality control. So you obviously will have somebody in the team who will continuously monitor the production, ensure the quality is there. And then once it is ready, we share all the updates, with internet and WhatsApp and all these new, fancy project management tools. It's very easy to be on top of things. And then we look at shipping, right? Again, shipping, as simple as it sounds, very complicated because you're always ordering something which is, sort of LCL, we call it, like less than container load. So you're ordering, 5 CBM, 10 CBM, 20 CBMs, or often we realize that businesses actually work with 5 factories or 6, communities. And so they need their products to be centralized before they're shipped, right? So shipping is a behemoth in itself. There's a lot of moving components in that. So we manage that as well. And then custom clearance, again, like I mentioned, it is complicated if you don't know it, but, we have these channel partners that help us with fulfillment. So they would help you with creating the customs, any issues, they can come back to us. And then we sort of liaison with different importers and freight forwarders in Europe and in North America to sort of find a sort of a seamless, importing into that country. And then you repeat it basically, so this B2B, right? So you're happy, and then you're forecasting what your production would look like. And then you sort of, you're already working on in the sort of the middle of 2024 or the Christmas of 2024 now. So, have that vision, have that trust, and really think about, how technology is playing this very important role in making things seamless, right? And that's what we think is going to happen now. You would effectively sort of use this global supply chain to kind of bring lean systems into your business and be more profitable. And like we all want for small businesses, for them to become bigger brands. That's our focus here.
Now that you mentioned that, I know that like the cross-boarding is the term that you use, right? So how can I know like if my business is ready to make and to take this step? Like, do you have like something, like some factors that I can just think and say, okay, if I have this and that in my business, I can move forward and do this for me?
Yeah, so, and I mean, there's obviously a fun way of explaining this. So I would say, think of this as a business, so tangible and intangible components. So what's intangible? You are an anxious business owner. You have a lot of orders, not enough hands to fulfill them. Right? That's going to be your number one indicator that it's time to sort of find collaborations, right? I know my recipe. It's like the Colonel Sanders of the KFC. He had his recipe. He just had to scale his business. So you first, come to that stage where you can't really do all of this on your own. The second thing I would say is going to be your tangible competence, which is, do you have a profitable business to begin with? So if what you're doing already is profitable, that means you have this surplus cash that you don't know what to do with. And we could then use that cash to sort of further help you compound your business. Right? Simple as that. So it's this intangible component, which is the emotion, the mindset, the anxiety. Sort of you just can't do it because it's all of a sudden becomes so big. And the second thing is you're profitable, you have cash. And now it's a good time to sort of say, what? Let's try and find partners. Let me just try and invest more time doing more new designs. Let me just try and find, a team that will help me sell more products and get bigger orders and stuff like that.
I think being profitable and have the ability or the gut to do it, I think those are key to make it. And I think the gut, it's something that all small business owners have, because if not, we wouldn't be having a business, right? What are the pros and cons of doing this cross-boarding thing? Are there some things that are, of course, I know that some things are going to be very good, but also there are going to be challenges. Can you elaborate more on this?
Right, of course, yeah. The biggest challenge that we've seen as we're doing this business is basically the expectations versus the supply of the products, right? So, when you live in different continents, your expectations are obviously very different. And this goes both in terms of the manufacturers that work with us as well as the brand. So the biggest challenge is to sort of find this fine balance of meeting each other's expectations, right? And in a cross-border is a very sort of a new concept for small businesses. And so really sort of have that leap of faith, say, you know what, the first order will have challenges, but eventually it will streamline. The second thing I would say is going to be having a process built in place. Now, small businesses are brilliant, and most of them obviously are run by sort of a mix of families, generational across different generations. And what I realized is that a lack of process or a lack of system sometimes becomes detrimental for cross-border collaborations, because if you don't have a system in place, you would eventually have issues making products. And so really think about how do you introduce a system of making things. That needs to be done properly. The third thing, like I mentioned, would be, you always need an expertise. You always need an expertise in terms of somebody who acts as a fiduciary, somebody who acts as a third-party auditor that is neither on your side nor on the manufacturer's side, but he's on the side of doing the right things the right way, right? So I would say these three things, typically, if you do, you would not have a lot of issues. And having said that, cross-border for big companies, depending on where you live, if you live in the UK, there's a John Lewis's, all the big brands that you can think of, right? The Macy's in the US and all, they all have been doing this for the last 50 years. It's not new. Things that you've been buying for your homes for the last 50 years as consumers have come from across different parts of the world. What is new is that this hasn't been done as often as we all like it to happen for small businesses, right? So that's where I would say you need to really think about how can you really build, those systems, build those trust, have a belief system, think about repeatability to make it successful. Because this is the only way you will become a bigger brand, by forming collaborations.
And coming with that and having that system put together before starting the process, I think that also comes with the time management, right? Because like you said, I'm going to order something today, but I won't be expecting it in next week, right? It's going to take time. And how much time should we consider to start seeing the products and start working with the products that we can create with you? Like, what's the time?
Yeah, so roughly, that's a very good point. So obviously the sampling time, usually we have our track record of sampling is about 30 days. So yeah, and then shipping, depending on the volume of the product, can take between a week to about a month. So you're looking at about 60 days from the first conversation to the delivery.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Actually, frankly, with ICT penetrations and WhatsApp and emails and Kanbans and project management tools, Google spreadsheets, things have become very, very different. Communications become really, it's free now, practically. So yeah, it's 60 days to sort of do the sampling. And production, again, really depends on the volumes and which countries are we talking about. But, quantities and the country you're working in. But typically, most projects, happen in 3 to 6 months. Right? So, but you have to have that vision. You need to, and this is the first time you do it, it's 3 to 6 months. Second time you do this, it practically is within 3 months. Because now we know what needs to be done. We learn from the mistakes. But like I said, right, this is not for everybody. You cannot outsource before you have proven product market fit. Or if you're not profitable, or if you're still thinking of starting, I don't think this is for you guys. So you really have to have that understanding that, okay, I want to create a new design, but I don't know what to do, because you will lose steam. You will have issues stepping to the next stage and stuff. So really, this is for Etsy sellers who are doing very well, people who sell to retailers, or then are wholesalers and sort of are looking to expand. This is for sort of semi-established and scaling businesses. And also, by the way, just coming back to our services, we charge between 5% and 25%, and it really depends on what all are you asking for. And like I mentioned, we are a technology business, so if you're looking at just shipping and you just want one SKU to be done, you probably would charge 5%. But if you have an assortment of SKUs, you're working on a team, or you're working with you need for us to work with 7 suppliers, 7 nano factories, then it obviously increases because there's a lot of moving components that we have to streamline. But like I said, in conclusion, you are still saving a good 70-80% as compared to if you have to partner with an importer who would just do his work as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I think this is such a good way to have a better idea of how this process works. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I know that a lot of people that are small business owners are thinking about this and they don't know how to start, and relying on services and companies like yours is going to release a lot of things. It's going to be very easy. And like you said, you don't have to do everything with you guys, right? If you just need consultation about the shipping process, or I don't know, you also offer that. So I think this is very helpful. And like you said, if you are not profitable, or if you would just want to start and try and test the waters without knowing if the product is going to work, I think it's not going to be successful. You just have to have in mind what you want, and what are you going to do with the products that you're going to receive, and just double check that you are going to be able to pay for it, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Konark. I think we had all of the information that we have, but I would love for you to just leave everyone with your social media handles. How can they find you, and how can they contact you?
Yeah, so if you just go to Google, and we have a very sort of a nice name for the brand. It's called Rural Handmade. In fact, that's what we're doing, connecting rural to urban across borders. So Google Rural Handmade, you'll find us on LinkedIn, social medias, all the hands are there. And we, like I said, we offer a free consultancy. So if you have anything to do with handmade and you're a business and you're looking at new designs, you're looking at data, cross-border collaboration, how to get things done across different partners, and if you focus on sustainability, and I sort of want to reiterate this enough that the reason we started this business, because we think that sustainability has to be equitable, so environment, society, and then the economic imputers, they all have to go hand in hand for us to have a truly sustainable world. And the sector that we all are a part of is a sector which is going to sort of propel this sustainability, this huge demand for sustainability wide products. And I'm hoping the world is going to be a much better place to live in as we all embrace sustainability in every shape and form.
I love that. I believe that too. I hope so that happens. So thank you so much for being with us, Konark. There you have my conversation with Konark. Please go check out Konark and his business in the link of the show notes. I hope you find this episode helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe, give us a follow. And if you like this episode, share it with your friends. Thank you for being here, and until next time.
Thank you. Ciao.
If you're interested to learn more about Inventora to help track products made by you and sourced from a supplier, visit Inventora.com.